You ever walk into a room and feel it instantly? You're invisible unless somebody needs something from you. But somehow, you're still the one getting talked over, dismissed, or joked about. They cut you off mid-sentence. They tease you, but it's not really teasing. They ignore your idea until someone louder it. You laugh it off in the moment. Then on the drive home, you're replaying it, thinking, why didn't I say something? Why do I always let that slide? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Nobody really tells you. The people around you are constantly learning from you, how to treat you, and if you don't set the lesson, they will. Machiavelli, that old political strategist people love to call evil, had a brutal little insight. People judge almost everything by appearances, not intentions. They don't care what's in your heart. They care what you tolerate, what you allow, where you draw the line. Respect isn't just given, it's negotiated every day in small moments. So this isn't going to be scream at everyone and dominate nonsense. And it's not just love yourself and people will magically respect you either. I want to give you something you can actually use tomorrow morning in a meeting, at dinner, with family, in a conversation with your partner, wherever. By the time we're done, you'll know 3 things: how people quietly test your boundaries, how to respond in the moment without turning it into a soap opera, and how to slowly change the way people see you if you've already let them walk over you for years. Let's start with the core Machiavellian truth. People are self-interested and they watch for signals, not evil, just self-focused. If you always say yes, they'll keep asking. If you always swallow disrespect, they will keep pushing. If you laugh when they humiliate you as a joke, they'll do it again because it cost them nothing and it entertained everyone. In their mind, that's efficient. Maximum benefit, zero consequence. Machiavelli would say, you have taught them that the cost of disrespecting you is zero. So why would they change? That sounds harsh, but flip it because there's power there. If you can teach people that disrespecting you is easy, you can also teach them the opposite. And no, that doesn't mean becoming some cartoon villain. It means you quietly become someone who doesn't reward disrespect with approval, doesn't explain themselves to people who are baiting them, and does follow through when a line is crossed. You might be thinking, okay, but what does that look like when my boss interrupts me in a meeting? Or what about my partner rolling their eyes every time I talk? We'll get there. But first, there's a decision you have to make that sounds soft, but is actually the foundation for everything else. The decision is this: I am no longer available for being disrespected as the price of peace. Because for years, a lot of us trade self-respect for harmony. I'll let it pass. I don't want drama. I'll keep quiet. I don't want to seem difficult. I'll laugh. I don't want to be the boring one who can't take a joke. The problem is that peace isn't real. You still go home angry. You still lie awake replaying the scene. You still feel small. You didn't avoid conflict. You just moved the conflict inside your own head. So if this is hitting a nerve, that's actually good. It means the part of you that's tired of swallowing disrespect is awake. Don't shut it back down. Now, Machiavelli has this other idea. It's better to be feared than loved. If you can't be both, people hear that and picture some warlord screaming at everyone. That's not useful. Let's translate it into modern life. In your world, feared simply means they believe there are real consequences for crossing you. That might be you walk away, you stop helping, you stop giving access, you go over their head, you end the relationship, you speak up in front of others. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be real. If people believe there are no consequences, respect dies. If they feel there is something to lose, respect naturally rises. That's the theory. Let's get into the practical side, because the next time you walk into a room, the game starts in the first 30 seconds. Watch what happens when someone who quietly commands respect walks in somewhere new. They don't necessarily shout. They don't rush. They don't fidget and try to justify their presence. They do a few simple things. They move like they already belong there. They take a beat before they talk. They let their eyes land on people, not dart around. They choose where to sit or stand instead of hovering on the edges. Machiavelli would call that stage managing perception. We call it presence. So, next time you walk into a meeting or a party or even a family gathering, try this tiny experiment. Instead of rushing to fill silence, slow down by 10%. Instead of diving straight for the least noticeable chair, choose one that's not apologetic. Not the head of the table like you're conquering Rome, just not folded into the corner. Instead of looking at the floor or your phone, pick a few faces. Hold eye contact for a second or two, give a small nod. You don't have to be the loudest. People respect calm certainty more than noisy insecurity. Okay, that's before anything is said. Now, what about when the disrespect actually shows up? Because it will, especially when people are used to the old you. Let's say you're speaking in a meeting and someone cuts you off. Old pattern. You go quiet or you laugh and let them take over, or you speed up your words like you're apologizing for existing. New pattern, simple line. Hold on. I wasn't finished. That's it. Not angry, not emotional. Just a calm interruption of the interruption, and then you continue. You don't over-explain. You don't add a nervous if that's okay. You just reclaim your sentence. You've just sent a Machiavellian signal. There is a boundary here. I will enforce it even in front of others. Let's do another one. Someone makes a joke at your expense in front of others. You feel that sting in your chest. Everyone looks at you to see how you react. Old pattern, force a laugh. Maybe make an even harsher joke about yourself to prove you're chill. New pattern, you stop for half a second. You look at them not smiling and you say, nah, I'm not okay with that one. Then you go back to what you were doing again. You're not lecturing them for 10 minutes. You're not performing outrage. You're just not rewarding their disrespect with laughter and approval. That little moment feels awkward. Yeah, your heart will be pounding the first few times. But here's the thing. People remember that feeling. They might roll their eyes in the moment. They might mumble, relax. It was just a joke. But next time they go to use you as the punchline, that microsecond of tension comes back in their body and they think, maybe not them. That's Machiavellian. You didn't give a TED talk on boundaries. You just gave them a tiny, uncomfortable consequence. Now, a question you might have, but what if they double down? What if they say I'm overreacting, especially if I am a woman or I'm usually quiet? That's where most people break. The moment their boundary gets tested, they retreat and apologize. The trick is to not get dragged into their frame. If they say, relax, you're overreacting, you don't start defending yourself with a long speech. You keep it short and grounded. I'm not overreacting. I just said, I'm not okay with that. And then you leave it there. You'll notice something. When you don't defend, argue, or over-explain, there's less for them to push against. The more words you use, the weaker you sound. Short sentence, calm tone. Repeat if necessary. I said, I'm not okay with that. I'm not done speaking yet. I don't allow people to talk to me like that. Notice that last one. I don't allow people to talk to me like that. It's a very Machiavellian sentence in a good way. It quietly says I have standards. I enforce them. I'm not asking for permission. I'm stating reality. Now maybe you're thinking, okay, but my situation is deeper than one or two moments. I've been the doormat friend, the quiet partner, the guy at work everyone makes fun of for years. They're not going to suddenly respect me because I said one line. You're right. That's like trying one workout and expecting visible abs. If your reputation is the one we can get away with anything around, you're not fixing that overnight, but you can absolutely change it over time. Machiavelli has this ruthless line about rulers. Sometimes to stay in power, they have to break with their past patterns to send a shock through the system. You're not a prince in Renaissance Italy, but the psychology is the same. You cannot become respected while behaving exactly like the version of you they grew comfortable disrespecting. So here's a simple, realistic reset plan. Call it your 30-day respect reset. Step 1, you quietly stop volunteering for everything. If you're the one who always picks up the slack, always covers shifts, always drives, always organizes, always listens for hours, while nobody asks how you are, pull back. Don't announce it with a speech. Just stop auto-yesing. When someone assumes you'll do it, new default line. I'm not able to this time. No drama, no defending, no 5-paragraph essay. Let them feel the absence of your free labor. This alone will feel like a revolution if you've been a people pleaser. But it's important because if you never stop giving, they will never believe you when you say that's too far. Your actions contradict your words. Step 2, choose 1 or 2 key people and have a direct, uncomfortable conversation. This is where a lot of us want some magic sentence that avoids discomfort. I don't have one. Disrespect thrives in silence. At some point, you have to tell the person. You can say it like this. Hey, I want to bring something up. Sometimes when you joke about me in front of everyone, it really lands as disrespect. I've laughed along before, but I'm not okay with it anymore. I value our relationship, so I'm telling you directly. I need that to stop. Will your voice shake? Probably. Will your heart race? Almost guaranteed. Will they maybe get defensive for a second? Very possible. But again, you've just done something extremely powerful. You've moved the conflict from inside your head into the real world where it can actually be dealt with. Some people will surprise you and say, wow, I didn't realize, I'm sorry. Cool. They're keepers. Some will brush it off or mock you. That tells you something too. This is someone who benefits from your low standards and doesn't want to lose that advantage. Very Machiavellian of them. That leads to step 3, consequences. This is where better to be feared than loved if you can't be both becomes very practical. If they continue disrespecting you after you've calmly drawn a line and told them how it lands for you, something has to change on your side. Not words, behavior. At work, that might mean you stop going out of your way to help them. You stop covering for them. You raise issues to a manager instead of pretending it's fine. In friendships, you stop being so available. You leave the group earlier instead of staying in a hostile environment. You invest your energy in people who treat you well. In relationships, you say, we've talked about this before. If this keeps happening, I'm going to need some distance. And if it keeps happening, you follow through. Not in a dramatic explosion, but in a measured, consistent withdrawal. Machiavelli would say, a warning without a consequence is worse than saying nothing. It teaches them you don't mean what you say. Your job is to break that pattern. Now, let's talk about another kind of disrespect, the strategic one. Some people use subtle disrespect as a power move. They interrupt you in front of others to lower your status. They joke that you're incompetent. They mispronounce your name on purpose. They talk over you in front of your kids or your team or your friends. In those moments, it's not just about you and them. It's about the audience. The room is silently wondering, okay, how is this person going to handle this? Commanding the room doesn't mean flipping a table. It means you respond in a way that makes everyone think, yeah, don't mess with them. One of the best tools here is a calm question. They take a shot at you. You stop, look at them, and say, what made you say that? Suddenly, they're the one on the spot. They have to either own the malice or backtrack. If they say, relax, it's just a joke, you can follow with, I heard that. I'm asking, what made you think that was cool to say? The tone is everything. Not shaky, not laughing, not enraged, just firm curiosity. Most people crumble under that kind of direct light because they're only strong when everyone is on autopilot. When you call it out, they wobble. Another move, assuming authority in the room. Even if you're not the official leader, if you're discussing something and two people are talking over you, instead of talking louder and faster, you pause, then say one at a time, I'll finish, then I'll hear you out. Notice what you did there. You positioned yourself as someone whose voice gets heard and who can direct the flow without shouting. Again, that's Machiavellian. You acted as if you had authority, and often people will just go along with it because humans are wired to follow certainty. Now, there's a balance here. You don't want to become the tyrant who disrespects everyone else. That's just flipping the same insecurity to the other side. So here's a rule of thumb. You never use disrespect to gain respect. You don't talk over others to show dominance. You don't belittle people to look strong. You set standards for how you are treated, and you also treat people the way you're asking to be treated. That's not weakness. That consistency is actually what builds your reputation. Speaking of reputation, Machiavelli talks a lot about how a ruler's reputation can save them from 1,000 fights. When people broadly know that person is tough but fair, and they don't play games, a lot of potential disrespect never even gets attempted. In your life, that reputation looks like this. People know you keep your word. They know you don't gossip about everyone. They know you won't explode emotionally, but you also won't swallow everything. They know you're competent at what you do. So if you want people to respect you more, one of the least sexy but most powerful moves is get very good at something and become reliable. The more valuable you are, the more costly it feels to disrespect you. Think about that one person at work everyone listens to. Even if they're quiet, often it's because they've built years of competence and follow through. When they speak, it matters. That's another kind of fear in the Machiavellian sense. Not fear of violence, but fear of losing access to your value. So while you're working on your boundaries, also work on your skills, your health, your network. The more options you have in life, the less you tolerate garbage. People can feel when you're not trapped. Now, I want to address something that might be sitting in the back of your mind. What if I try all this and some people still don't respect me? Answer: some will never respect you because respecting you would require them to look at their own behavior. They're not ready for that. Your job is not to convert everyone. Your job is to stop participating in your own disrespect. That might mean accepting that certain relationships will fade, that a workplace that runs on humiliation culture is not worth your life energy, that a family member who only feels big when you feel small might need distance. Those are heavy things. I'm not pretending they're easy, but again, ask yourself, what's the price of staying exactly where you are 5 years from now? Still swallowing. Still furious at yourself for being silent. One more thing I promised, a simple sentence you can keep in your back pocket. There isn't one magical phrase that fixes everything, but there is a category of sentences that are incredibly strong. They all have the same structure. I don't allow people to talk to me like that. I don't discuss my personal life at work. I don't tolerate jokes like that about me. I don't raise my voice, and I won't be spoken to in that tone either. Notice none of those are. You're a bad person. You always disrespect me. You make me feel. They're not about judging the other person's soul. They're about stating your standard. That's very Machiavellian in the clean sense. Define your laws, then calmly enforce them. You're not begging for respect. You're showing how things work in your kingdom, which is your life. If you've been quiet for years, your voice might shake the first 10 times you say this. That's fine. Shaky voice, strong boundary. Over time, something interesting will happen. You'll stop waiting for people to disrespect you so you can react. You'll start carrying yourself with a different baseline and people will sense it. You'll be less eager to please. You'll speak a little slower. You'll let silence hang when someone crosses a line instead of nervously filling it. You'll be more selective about where you spend your time. That's commanding a room, not through theatrics, but through the quiet message your whole presence sends.